Welcome to Digimon.
Hello and welcome to Digimon and welcome to another deck profile. If you like this sort of video, please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel and ding that notification bell so you're not missing out on any of the latest content. Now, I did mention in the video about Leopardmon Ace that I'd been working on some decks that use some slightly different engines for that card. So I figured we'd do a double deck profile today for two different engines that I've been exploring with Leopardmon specifically. First of all, we're going to look at the CS version. So, of course, the Leopardmon Ace is of itself a CS card, so it does fit in fairly well with a CS deck. So I've kind of gone for a very particular build with this, trying to focus on as much of the green stuff as possible. The hope is that in BT23 this deck will become a little bit more viable, a little bit easier to do. Of course, we've seen some reveals already with the BT23 Tentomon and the BT23 Kabuterimon, so hopefully those will help to kind of boost up our green numbers and make certain things a little bit easier, and hopefully there'll be even more green stuff. Hopefully a green level 5 would be great. I mean, if we're going Tentomon and Kabuterimon, a Mega Kabuterimon would be fantastic. But anyways, let's get into the list. Of course, the main crux of this is going to be just the CS stuff, and then we'll get into the real kind of differences once we get to the top end. So first of all, we are going to have the Wanyamon Egg, which essentially just allows you, when you place something underneath it, you can then Digivolve up into a level 4, into a Digimon with CS in its traits, with the cost reduced by 1, whether that be level 4, level 5, whatever. Doesn't matter on the level, it will just do it the moment something has gone into the sources. Then we've got the Terriermon, the Palmon, and the Hagurumon, which all have the same inheritable effect, which allows you to put a CS trait Digimon top sack card as its bottom Digivolution card instead to draw 1, and then each one has a different effect on top of that. Terriermon, when something places underneath it, you can play a CS traded Tamer if you've got 1 or fewer. Palmon gains you a memory, and then Hagurumon will minus 3k something on the board. So all of them pretty nice. Then we're going into the level 4s. We've got the Gold Numamon, which compared to my normal CS build, I've put down to 3 copies just to make some more room for stuff. I did test this before, but sometimes that was too much in the case of this particular build, so I went with 3 in the end. It will essentially have the on-play effect to give one of your opponent's Digimon security attack -2, and then the ability to warp up into Platinum Numamon does not come up because we do not run it. But the more importantly is the your turn effect, which when this Digimon would Digivolve into a Digimon card with the CS trait, reduce the Digivolution cost by 1. So essentially making everything a little bit cheaper. So you put this underneath with your Wanyamon, and all of a sudden your level 4 costs nothing instead of costing 1, which is really nice. Then we've got 3 copies of the Kuwagamon, who annoyingly does not have 5000 DP. He's got 6000 DP, thus making him unplayable with the Leopardmon Ace effect. But he is playable off of our other level 6. And what he does is, on play when Digivolving, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon. Then if this Digimon stack has 2 or more same level cards, one of your opponent's Digimon can't unsuspend until their turn ends. So it just helps with stunning your opponent's Digimon. Then it has an alternate inheritable. When this Digimon deletes your opponent's Digimon in battle, gain 1 memory, which, because we're suspending stuff, really helps us out. Then we've got 2 copies of the Gargomon, just to help us with playing out other stuff. Again, annoyingly, 6000 DP, not 5000 DP for the Leopardmon threshold, but as we've seen with the Kabuterimon, that is 5000 DP, so once we reach BT23, we can start playing that, so not bad at all. It doesn't have an inheritable, unfortunately, but hopefully the alliance will be really good. But Gargomon is nice for helping us to play out Tamers. Doesn't have an on-play anyway, so I've kind of put it down as the least important one here, especially seeing we've got another Tamer player in the Terriermon. I did try running Rise Greymon in this for a while, but I did shift to something else, which we'll get to in a bit. Then our last level 4 is going to be the Togemon, who is 5000 DP, so both the Leopardmon Ace and the Leopardmon X can play this out because it's got 5000 DP, so Leopardmon Ace can play it, and it's green, so therefore Leopardmon X can play it. And on play when Digivolving, one of your Digimon gets 3000 DP for the turn. Then if this Digimon stack has 2 or more same level cards, this Digimon gains Raid and Piercing for the turn, and then also gives 2000 DP as the inheritable as well, so really handy there. Then going into our level 5s, we've got 2 copies of the Kirinmon, who, if it's trashed from security, it'll be -8. It's a very low chance of that happening in this deck. I did experiment with Repamon in this list, because that is a 5000 DP CS trait Digimon, but the issue with that was there wasn't enough times for us to take advantage of the -6, and if we did, we would deplete our own security quite quickly. which, given that we've got no recovery in this deck, is kind of a problem. But Kiramon's when Digivolving effect, trashing a security effect to Digivolve up into a CS trait Digivon for a reduced cost of 2. Also Kentorosmon or Mitamamon, but obviously we're not playing those, is pretty nice. And then when attacking Inheritable to deliver minus 4,000 DP to something is also great. We've then got 4 copies of the Okuamon. This is our green level 5 for CS, so we had to play 4 copies of this. It's got Fortitude, so if it does get deleted, it can bounce back. And also it is a removal MVP. Suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, then if this Digimon stack has 2 or more same level cards, return one of your opponent's suspended Digimon with the lowest DP to the hand. And there's an alternative effect: when this Digimon deletes your opponent's Digimon in battle, trash their top security card. So if we do smack into a suspended Digimon thanks to the Quagamon effect, or because of the Okuamon's effect, we will be able to trash the top of their security. And then our last level 5, we've actually got 2 copies of the Skull Meramon. And now the reason I went with this was purely to give us an additional draw engine in this build. One of the issues with this build is because of the fact we're not purely CS, we can't use a lot of the CS searches, but also because we don't purely have a shared color between everything, then we've got that as an issue. What I would really hope is that once we get to October, we can start playing the Chartreuse Memory Boost, the green-yellow one, and then we can search everything in this deck, bar this Skull Meramon, which at that point we would probably then replace with something else, something that is yellow or green, maybe go up to 4 copies of the Kirinmon or something like that. But right now, the Skull Meramon is nice. It helps us with a little bit of removal. It can also be an early aggro player if it manages to get Security Tap +1 and live, but that on deletion draw 2 and trash 1 is the really important part, just giving us an additional way of doing draws, and also has that on deletion inheritable. You may play 1 level 4 or lower Digimon card with the Flame or CS trait from your trash without paying the cost. So that is really nice for certain stunning, suspending them with a Quagamon, something like that. Security Tap minus, for example, with the Gold Numamon, and also kind of helps as a little deterrent from deleting our level 6s. Then going into those level 6s, let's first start with Leopardmon Ace, was kind of the inspiration for this build. On play, when Digimon, you may play 1 5,000 DP or lower Digimon card from your hand without paying the cost, and then all of your level 3 or higher Digimon gain blocker until your opponent's turn ends. So, no shenanigans with levelless stuff like Mother Reaper and stuff like that. And then alternative effect: when any of your other Digimon would leave the battle area, gain 2 memory, which I have come up in testing both in this build and the other build we're going to discuss, where essentially we've got level 5 out, we ace into this, we play out a rookie, they've gone to 0 memory for whatever reason. We then block with that rookie because we've given blocker to everything. Because it then died, we then gain 2 memory and return turn back to us, which is really funny. There was, of course, the infinite loop before the ban list that involved this card, and thank God that no longer exists. Then into our next level 6, which is the Leopardmon X. This, of course, digivolves on top of our Leopardmon for 1 cost, and on top of any green level 5 for 4 costs. So can only digivolve onto the Akuamon, so it is kind of risky. I did potentially think about running it at 2, but I just didn't see it enough then, so I opted to go 3 and 3 on both of the Leopardmons. But the Leopardmon X, when digivolving and main effects, you can keep doing it for as long as it's on the board. You may play 1 green Digimon card from your hand with the play cost reduced by 4, and if a card with Leopardmon in its name or X antibody is in its Digimon's Digivolution cards, further reduce that by 3. So it can actually, if it's got Leopardmon or X antibody in stack, play out Leopardmon for free, and it could also play out Medieval Gallantmon for free, on top of the reduction effect from the Medieval Gallantmon. Also, when something is played out, when one of your Digimon is played, you may return one of your opponent's 5,000 DP or lower Digimon to the hand. For each of your other Digimon, add 3,000 to the maximum DP of this effect. So it does rack up the wider you go, so do bear that in mind. The only issue with this build in general is that a lot of the time we are just kind of putting stuff back into our opponent's hand. There's not only a lot of buff decking or something like that, which is a disadvantage of this deck compared to the next one we're going to talk about. But I do really like the Leopardmon X. It is really funny, especially in this build. Then we've got 2 copies of Medieval Gallantmon. I do not actually own 2 copies of Medieval Gallantmon, just FYI. I only own the 1. But it is really good in this build and also the next build, because spoiler, but the top end for this build and the other build we're looking at are actually exactly the same. But Medieval Gallantmon, of course, we all know how good it is. It survived the ban list, which a lot of people thought it would. And for me, yeah, retrospect, it's kind of copium me trying to predict that getting banned, I'll be honest. But, it's here to stay. I was incorrect. But, it is really good. It can really control the board well, and is an incredibly good counter against certain decks that like to play stuff out on the regular. you know, deleting stuff with its when digivolving effect, suspending them, and then also triggering that when digivolving effect again with the alterns effect when anything is played. Then we're going to go into our tamers. So we've got 4 copies of the Mirai Mikagura, or Mikagura. Someone in the comments will tell me off for pronouncing things in Japanese wrong again, I'm sure. Please do. I'm an ignorant British man. We don't do other languages, unfortunately. That's just the way we are. We are British. We speak English. That's all we does. We tries our best, but we don't succeed. Anyways, start your main phase. You return this tamer to the bottom of the deck, and then you may play a play cost 4 or higher Mirai Mikagura, or a play cost 4 or higher tamer with a CS trait from your hand without paying the cost. And then on play, which is the more important part of this build really, is by trashing 1 card with the Holy Beast, Angel, Archangel, Fallen Angel, or CS trait from your hand, you draw 2. So it just gets us to kind of cycle our cards a little bit more. Then our other tamer, of course, is 4 copies of the Ami Aiba. If your opponent has a Digimon, gain 1 memory. And when any of your Digimon digivolve into a Digimon with the CS trait, if it has a Digivolution card with the same level as the Digimon digivolved, by suspending this tamer, that Digimon may digivolve into a Digimon card with the CS trait in the hand without paying the cost. So this, of course, is our main way of digivolving up. You know, goes up into our level 5s for free a lot of the time. If we've done a level 5 and go up into a level 6 for free, you know, whatever. So she is kind of the heart and soul of this deck, along with Wanyamon. Then the rest of our cards, we've got 2 green scrambles, just to help us with playing stuff out and also reducing costs. Obviously has that great delay of being able to put stuff onto the top of our deck and, you know, play out a level 3. And then we've also got the Protoform, because obviously we've got Leopardmon X, we want an X antibody, just in case we don't have Leopardmon, and it also reduces the cost by 1, so if we do have the Leopardmon and we digivolve on top of it Leopardmon X, we can use Protoform to go into it free of charge. Also gives us a recovery, of course, when something would leave the battlefield with the all turns effect, so not bad. But anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at the other build, which actually, of the 2, I think is the better one. And that build is, of course, Leopardmon Adventure. So I've gone for an adventure build. This deck feels a lot more cohesive because there are many more little micro strategies in it compared to the CS1, and it's a little less linear, so it's harder for the opponent to kind of you know, deal with. It does, of course, have the same top end as the other build, so we won't necessarily go over those, but we will go over some of the little micro strategies that do appear in this build. So going with our egg, we've of course got the Sunomon Adventure egg. So the on deletion, you may return 1 Digimon card with the adventure trait from your trash to the hand. I did consider going for a green egg and going fully green with this build, but I just found I didn't have the right ratios for what I was thinking for this build, so I ended up kind of mixing it up a little bit. And the Sunomon is great because a lot of the time we want to, you know, get our adventure stuff back in the hand. Then we've gone for 3 of the Gomamon, 3 of the Tentomon, so we've got floodgates in this deck, which is nice. Gomamon, of course, helps prevent the opponent from gaining memory other than their tamer effects, and Tentomon will stop them from reducing Digivolution costs. We've then got 4 copies of the Palmon, who trashes a card with the adventure trait from the hand to draw 2, and also gives us 1000 DP as the inheritable. Then our level 4s, we've got 4 copies of Birdramon and 4 copies of Togemon. They do the same thing, which essentially is, if your tamers with the adventure trait have 3 or more total colours, this Digimon may digivolve into a Digimon card with the adventure trait in the hand without paying the cost. And both of these guys have 5000 or less DP, because both of them have 4000 DP. So Leopardmon Ace, irrespective of the colour of the Birdramon, can play both of them. So you know, go to your Leopardmon Ace, go into one of these, as long as you've got the tamers underneath, then they can digivolve up to a level 5 completely free of charge, which is really, really nice. And then both of them also give us DP boosts as the inheritables. The Birdramon gives us a 2000 DP on our turn, and the Togemon gives us a 1000 DP on all turns, which is not bad. Then we go into the level 5s. First one, we've got 4 copies of the Mega Capitarimon, who is pretty cool in this build, not gonna lie. This build, of course, does take a lot of inspiration from like the Vortex Warriors adventure builds that have popped around, just with some slight differences. But yeah, the Mega Capitarimon is really cool. Essentially what it will do is it'll unsuspend 1 of our Digimon, and then for every 2 colours your tamers have with the adventure trait, you would then suspend 1 of your opponent's Digimon. So for each of these colours, so say if you've obviously got Tai and you've got Matt out, that would be suspending 2 Digimon, so not bad. And then it also has the Your Turn effect, which the Lilymon also affects, also has. So when your other Digimon are played or Digivolve, if any of them have the adventure trait, one of your Digimon gains Alliance for the turn, then one of your Digimon may attack, and it also has an Alliance as the Inheritable, which the Lilymon does too. And then the difference here is that the Lilymon actually also has a incredibly good, removal effect, especially when you pair it with this Mega Kabuterimon, because Mega Kabuterimon can suspend anything, whereas Lilymon can only spend all of your opponent's 5000 DP or lower Digimon. But Lilymon, for every 2 colours your tamers have, return one of their suspended Digimon to the bottom of the deck. So, although it can only suspend 5000 DP or less Digimon, it can bottom deck anything that is suspended. So if you've managed to suspend something with the Mega Kabuterimon or with the Lilymon will bounce it so long as you've got enough colours on the board in terms of your tamers. So really, really good. The fact that these guys give you free Alliance as well when we're a deck that goes mega wide is also really, really nice. So I do love those. The fact that we also Digivolve up into them for free using our Leopardmon is fantastic. As I mentioned, we won't go into the level 6s because we've already done that with the other build, but they obviously have their own little strategies here, playing out these guys to Digivolve up, just overall giving us a much more fluid Digivolution line. Then into our tamers, we've got the Joe and Mimi at 2 copies, gives us a memory if we've got a Digimon card with the adventure trait, and then it also allows us to suspend this Digimon to reduce the play cost of one of our adventure Digimon by 1. Then we've got the Tai and Izzy. Although we've got the Leopardmon Ace to give blocker to everything, that does only last until the opponent's end of turn. So by having the Tai and Izzy, this will give us blocker to all of our adventure stuff at the very least for every one of our opponent's turns, which is really cool. Then we've also got the also does the play cost reduction thing as well. Then we've got the Matt and TK, which of course, because we're playing stuff out and a lot of the time we're playing out adventure stuff, having this to give all of our level 5 or higher Digimon with adventure trait rush is really nice. Obviously that's only going to be these guys here, the Mega Kabuterimon to the Lilymons, but that is still enough to really make a dent in stuff, and again has that cost reduction. Then we've got 2 copies of the BT22 tie, which will be our memory setter. It also draws 1 when we are going to attack in, and also allows us to play an adventure or hero trait card with a play cost of 2 or less from our hand without paying the cost. And then for each of your tamer's colours, add 1 to this effect's play cost maximum. Then you return this tamer to the bottom of the deck, so you can just use it to play stuff out. Then I've gone for 2 copies of Jade Memory Boost just to give us an additional searcher. You could very well replace this with Green Scramble or something like that. Just obviously bear in mind you won't be able to play out the Gomamon with that, but everything else is pretty much going to be fair game with that. The Jade Memory Boost also does not search the Birdramon, obviously, because it is red, but we don't have a red, green, blue memory boost. So I went for the Jade Memory Boost just for the fact that it's going to search, the vast majority of everything. There's no red, green one yet. Of course, it's been revealed. So I decided to go with that. Plus, we've got the Togemon that does the same thing as the Birdramon anyway, so it's fine. Plus, we've also got 4 copies of Our Courage United. So this one, when we play it, it will draw us 2 cards, so it really helps us out there. And has the All-Turns effect, obviously giving us a trap card. So the other thing with the CS version is that the CS version, and this is inherent of CS in general, not just the Leopardmon version, is that CS doesn't really have any ways of protection. Whereas here, at least, Our Courage United it doesn't protect the stack, but it replaces it, because we're going to end up, if our level 5 or higher Digimon would leave the battle area, we can then play a level 5 or lower Digimon card with the adventure trait from our hand without paying the cost. So whatever leaves doesn't matter, as long as we're playing out an adventure trait Digimon, so that is no worries at all. And then 2 copies of Protoform in this list as well. So of the 2, I very much prefer the Leopardmon Adventure version, and I think it's the more cohesive of the 2. But that is those 2 profiles, guys. I'm wondering whether to do gameplay on these, but I feel like this video is going to be long enough as it is. Also, it's quite late the time I'm recording, so if you do want to see some gameplay of these 2 different lists, or also if you've got any other wacky builds down below, maybe we should do that. Maybe we should do like a wacky weekly series, like of people just sending in builds for us to showcase on the channel. I think that'd be really fun. Let me know in the comments if you guys want to do that. But anyways, like, subscribe, and ding that notification bell if you do like this video, guys, and all our others. So keep in the loop for when we are next uploading. But until we see you in the next video, keep it digital.